Good night and welcome to the TZMShow, brought to you through the courtesy of Smart Belize, Universal Hardware, Belize Electricity Limited, Moya Shepherd and Company Limited, Queen of the Bay State Ball, Queen of the Bay Pageant. I am your host, Zuniga, and I promise you that tonight's show will be one that is going to be extremely informative and educational. It's going to be on a topic that all of us should know about. It's going to be about human rights. So if you have ever thought about whether whatever one of your rights have been trampled upon, or you are thinking about even possibly taking it as a claim in front of the court, or simply you want to learn about your rights, then tonight's show is the show that you definitely want to stay tuned. Again, you will get an opportunity if you have questions. The show is being streamed live on the Creme Television Facebook page and the TZMShow Facebook page. So you will be able to send us your questions in the event you have a question, and we'll ensure that during the break we will read your questions if you have such a question. All right, now tonight we have in studio two persons extremely dear to me. Extremely. You're gonna see an extremely beautiful young lady and a very good-looking chap man. Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. We are going to be discussing with two individuals who used to be the administrative assistants in the office of the mayor while I was mayor of Belize City. On my left, I have Mrs. Michelle Trapp Zuniga. Now, Michelle, she was, as I told you, she did used to work in the office of the mayor, and then she went off and she did her degree. She's an attorney. She's now with the Human Rights Commission, and she'll be here discussing about human rights. We also have another attorney, Norman, went again and he did his law degree, just like Michelle. As a matter of fact, they're both graduates at the University of Guyana. Yes, yes. And so Norman was also my protocol officer, but he's also a very, very, very well-written poet. So we're going to hear about Norman and about his book tonight. So now, Michelle, I would just say some things, and then afterwards I believe you'll be doing a lot of the talking, or probably most of the talking, as it regards to human rights. Now, there are a number of human rights treaties that Belize have signed upon. All right, you have, as it regards to elimination of racial discrimination, human rights, you have the rights of the child, elimination of discrimination against women. You have even against torture, because in torture, if you're being held in custody or for interrogation, for example, you're not to be tortured during arrest, detention, and imprisonment. So there are certain human rights, you know, there's even for the migrant workers. And then, of course, there are certain issues that human rights distinctly address. Now, we can't go through all of that because there'll be a lot of them, but I'll just briefly state some of them, and we will discuss briefly, because I'm going to ask you what are some of the key human rights issues that go in front of the Human Rights Commission. So just quickly, we have, as it regards to human rights issues, we have the right to adequate housing, administration of justice, as it regards to children. So when you talk about safety for children, that there shouldn't be child prostitution, child pornography. There shouldn't even be children being wedded at a young age. Certain countries, I mean, that is still allowed. Violence against children, of course. There's civil and political rights. That's definitely one there to us, right, Norman? Cultural rights, democracy. All right, so there's definitely, as it regards to political and public affairs, equal participation in democracy. Detention, there shouldn't be any arbitrary detention. Development, in a country you expect that there ought to be, your government should be bringing forth development. That of course means that there should be economic, social and cultural rights also, and even as it regards to international financial obligation of the states. So in terms of foreign debt, they can't be they can't be absorbing so much foreign debt to the detriment of the citizens of that country, that they will make those persons impoverished because they have to ensure their payments, and it's unsustainable, things like that. Believe you me, that is a right. Good governance, as I told you, economic, social and cultural rights, education, right to a good education and to relevant training, food. You know, everybody has a right to food. It doesn't matter if you're detained, you have a right to food. No one can forcibly evict you on a quick notice if you have been, for example, even tenant and so forth for so long. Freedom of opinion and expression, that's definitely one of them that persons do look at. Sometimes it delves into the religious aspect. But that is definitely an area. As it regards also discrimination, hostility and violence, you look at those aspects. There's also freedom of peaceful assembly and of association. So when you hear about peaceful protests and things like that, trade unions, when you see different protest actions, this has to do with it. Freedom of religion and belief, health, maternal and child health. There's also the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. HIV, AIDS, and human rights. Those two go together in terms of if someone has contracted the virus, they still must be treated as a human being and all that goes with that. Human rights defenders also, they also have their rights. As it regards to independence of the judiciary, all right, this is also another one very key here in Belize. Everyone believes, and rightly so, that there should be independence of judges and lawyers. Rights for indigenous people, rights for land and older persons, they must have dignity and enjoy all the human rights by that should be available to them. As it regards to the rights of the poor, you know, there's different principles as it regards extreme poverty. Right to privacy, even in this digital age, there's also rights to privacy, and we also have as it regards to racism. Now that's one that's long and hard, you know, so there ought to be nothing as it regards to racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Also, prevention of torture. As I mentioned earlier, I had already mentioned that. Traditional values. So even in terms of, for example, the indigenous people and certain persons, they want to maintain certain traditional values and certain rights. That's also afforded to them. Right to safe drinking water and sanitation. Of course, to women, there's also you know, it's distinctly, there's distinct rights as it regards to the elimination of discrimination against women. CEDA, that's the Committee for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. Also, in law, so there's also discrimination against women in law and in practice. And you also have human rights as it regards to youth. And I can go on, there's more rights, but those are some of the key ones. Now, Michelle, that's a backdrop. I will yield to you now, and I want you to tell us first of all what exactly is the mandate of the Human Rights Commission, and I also want to know who comprises the Human Rights Commission.
Okay. Good night, Belize. As the observatory attorney for the Human Rights Commission, the mandate for me as the attorney there is to protect rights, as it, in particular when it comes to HIV. However, because it's been funded through the UNDP and National AIDS Commission. However, because human rights is so vast, it will not only entails my working on persons living with HIV/AIDS, it will also entails the broader scope of what human rights entails, and you've listed the different spectrum as it relates to human rights. The Human Rights Commission has a board of directors and they govern, so I report directly to that board as it relates to any documents that I intend to send out, any policies, advocating for any particular matter. It has to go through the board. It has a president. Right now the president is Mr. Leo Bradley Jr., who is himself an attorney. The vice president is Mr. Kevin Arthurs. And the other board members are Ms. Cynthia Pitts, who is the secretary, and you have Ms. Gamoa. And I believe Justice Moore is also a member on the board. And it has the Human Rights Commission office is located in Belmopan. It's housed in the Help for Progress building. So persons from the public can go to that office if they need help, they need assistance in any way by virtue of legislation, if it means advocacy for them in the court system, then we are there to give that assistance as well, in particular when it comes to lobbying the government for changes and so forth.
Okay, now Michelle, human rights, people look at human rights differently. I guess until you really feel the need to look at human rights keenly and know that you don't want your right trampled upon, sometimes it just slides. I want to know what are the main areas that persons go to the commission seeking help, or clarification on?
I started working at the commission as the in-house attorney since July, and this month is when I'm really actually on the ground doing the work. I spent the better part of last month getting a sense of the different issues. So I've been attending workshops that was spearheaded by the National AIDS Commission, and to get a sense of what the different NGOs are clamoring for. And as it relates to LGBT, the main mandate for them is for inclusion, in order for them to enjoy life like any other citizen of this country. And as it relates to HIV, some of the problems that have been coming to my attention is as it relates to school, where you have a child going to school, and for whatever reason, the school system, they suspect that that child is HIV or AIDS, and they want to know, but not outrightly asking, but want to have a meeting to discuss the medical condition. So we're finding people are coming forward with concerns of that nature, and so it's a matter for us through the commission to educate people as it relates to right to privacy, and educate them and do the necessary training and workshops that might be helpful. As it relates to, part of my mandate is also to work with the prison system to ensure that the rights, their human rights, are protected even though they're incarcerated, because they are still human beings and they need to be kept there with human dignity. So it's to protect them as well. And so when I get any concerns or any complaints from anybody from the public as it relates to a family member at the prison, then it's my role now to then investigate and then see how best we can help assist in that matter. But by virtue of being funded through the National AIDS Commission, then a major part of the work is to work with HIV and AIDS.
Now, in Belize, there's a lot of violations. I know you see it Norman, you're on Facebook all the time. I am. Michelle, maybe not you as much. But that's an area that a lot of people bring their problems to. And sometimes they've now used that they'll use their phone. So you literally see what's happening. So in the past, when you would only, it's your word against that person's word. Now you actually see visual images or videos, clippings of it. Now, there's also the right to privacy in this digital age. And we see a lot of our young ladies in particular that I believe have been violated, sometimes unknowing to them, when it comes to especially sexually through this, Michelle. Is this something that you think that you will see a lot more possibly cases going forward? And yeah, go ahead, because I want to ask you a question about HIV/AIDS as well.
Well, I'm hoping that we would see a lot of people not just take the matter to Facebook and complain, but actually activate the court system and take the matter to the court in order for us to have a legal ruling from the court.
But are there any laws as we speak that will be able to address such? This is a new, well, it's not a new technology, you know, so to speak. I mean, people have been on Facebook and social media for years now. But I'm not aware. You can tell us right now, are there laws that protect you whilst you're on here?
Well, you have your right to privacy, and with rights come responsibilities. So it's for the user of the technology to ensure that they are being responsible. However, we all have a role to play in it. If we take whatever we see on the Facebook and then wherever it's being transmitted, and then we use that and let that become and run with it without doing any background. And I'm speaking in particular with the media, to run with it. Then we have certain responsibility and certain role to play. And especially when you have a situation where you hear a person saying, well, I never consented to that, or I never to whatever is being said, then there is a duty. It's for us to then, for those responsible to then be called into question and for the matter to be taken to court. As it relates to the law, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not certain any specific legislation. However, I do know the overarching constitution, right to privacy. So if I'm not giving my consent to anything being used, then that should be my protection there.
Okay. So even if it's not like, it could be fought constitutionally? As a
To my mind, you can't go wrong with the Constitution. You embedded it as a Constitution violation, and by virtue of that, then you bring the matter forward.
Okay, then there's another thing. I mentioned about HIV/AIDS, and then I do want to go to some of our activists and human rights defenders out there, no?
Yes.
And even some of our trade union leaders. Myself, having been a trade union leader, those things are dear to me. HIV/AIDS, I have heard of certain situations, and I know of certain individuals that you know they have AIDS, but they're still going around having unprotected sex with individuals. What is there to protect individuals, the victims, the unknowing victims? Because people may say, well, that's why you should practice, what is it, chastity and all those things, and until you get married, then you should engage in sex. But if that does not happen, and an individual unknowingly sleeps with somebody that has HIV/AIDS, is there anything that individual, because we recently saw, for those of you who may be watching the TV, about, for example, what's his name, Usher, the singer, and the young lady who brought the case against Usher, the singer, as it regards to giving her herpes. Herpes is said to be a lifelong disease. It's incurable at the moment. So is there anything that individual can do? Because the first thing people may say, well, protect the giver, you know, or the carrier, you know. But what about the rights of of those individuals that unknowingly get it, but that person knows fully well that he or she was passing on, was infecting that individual, or by engaging in unprotected sex could in fact infect that individual? What is there on that?
Well, first of all, you have to look at when it comes to the individual, whether or not they would come forward with that matter in the first place to say two things. I've been with someone who I believe infected me, therefore disclosing outrightly that I am a HIV or AIDS person. So it goes back to their confidentiality, whether or not they want their right to privacy being brought forth to the public's attention. But in terms of going to the police and make a complaint and say, okay, I believe John Jones infected me by virtue of that, then it becomes a matter of proving it. Yes. Because you can always come forward and make a claim and charge. However, it's to prove it, because you'd have to prove that it came directly from this particular person. And so that would to my mind, that would become the issue, how you prove that you're contracting HIV is a direct result of your intercourse that you had with this particular person. Because then you find it may bring up issues as it relates to your sexual lifestyle and so on. So whether or not you can definitively prove it's this one person, if that person is infected himself, and whether then raise issues as to whether or not the person who you believe infected you is aware of it.
So would that be looked at as a crime or as a tort?
I believe, to my mind, at this stage I would say a tort, not a crime per se. But
why I'm saying that, yes, go ahead.
But it's getting the information, it's proving it.
Yes.
It's actually proving it.
Because I looked at it as a tort, because then an individual ought to now move to possibly getting some compensation as it regards to, you know, care, medical care, and whatever all the costs, you know, that carrying that particular disease or illness, you know, might incur. And I'm hoping that in Belize we will move to that stage, and because I believe that will be the stage whereby then people will say, okay, I can't go around doing that, because if I do that, 10, 15, 20 young ladies, I mess up their lives forever. I am going to have to pay millions, and if not millions, then I will suffer the consequence and be in jail for my entire life. Things like that. Mm-hmm. Because I feel that there's a lot of young ladies and young men, you know, and possibly not young, because you have wives who may not be as young, or husband, and they're still in that situation, but there ought to be repercussions. And if there won't be direct jail time, there ought to be some financial
yes, but it's proving it. It's to prove it, and to me that's where it lies. How you prove definitively that my contraction of HIV is as a result of my intercourse with this particular person. So once you cross that hurdle, once you can cross that hurdle, then I believe then you should be vindicated. However, how you prove it? That's
definitely going to be, I know that there's a specific area of law that will deal with those things, but in Belize there's not much of it, and I'm hoping that we will move to the stage whereby, I mean, they're dealing with it in the US, and you know, it's just a matter of time. But let us go to a first break, and when we come back, we will continue discussing about human rights, and we'll also be discussing with Norman Rodriguez. As Norman is also an attorney, so whilst we will be speaking with Norman as it regards to his book, I think Norman can also very effectively speak on any of these issues that we're discussing. All right, so Norman, I will be speaking with you next. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after these messages.
Smart's Broadband Unlimited Internet is available in all 6 districts. Sign up, enjoy the fastest, most reliable broadband internet for your home or office. Now offering 1 megabyte for only $55.
Stronger, faster, comfortable, affordable, and powered by the trusted Cummins ISF 2.8-liter turbo diesel engine. We changed the way the game is played. The new Photon tunneling truck and View CS2 van. Available at Universal Hardware. Photon, the game changer is here.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Coulson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.realestatebz.com.
It's the second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball and Sashing Ceremony, held under the distinguished patronage of Governor General Sir Colville and his wife, Lady Norma Young. Come witness the sashing of the delegates for Queen of the Bay 2017 and meet your favorite queens of yesteryear. Get your tickets at Bel Caribe Communications and Chef Carlos Restaurant, formerly Craven's Restaurant, at Mile 1 on the Philip Goldson Highway in Belize City.
Come enjoy food, drinks, music, elegance, glamour, and patriotism. The second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball, Saturday, August 26th, with red carpet starting at 7 p.m. at the Best Western Biltmore Plaza in Belize City. Contribution $100. See you at the second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball and Sashing Ceremony.
Welcome back to the Zuniga Moya Show. Tonight we're talking about human rights. It's an area that everybody should be interested in, unless you don't love yourself. And you're going to be foolish and wait until something happens to you. So definitely it's an area that should be appealing to you. And Michelle, before I went to break, I mentioned about particular legislation that might be in place, and possibly it's in the Caribbean, Norman.
In the Caribbean,
as it regards to if someone knowingly, pass on or infects an individual, and in some instances you can find out, especially let's say it's a young girl who has never been with somebody and is raped. That person, automatically, if she is found to be infected, man, I think that's definitely that's almost an open and shut case. But Norman, are there any legislation? I know both of you have studied in the Caribbean. Belize may not have, but
vaguely I can remember reading about convictions for people infecting other people.
Yes.
In at least 2 Caribbean countries, if I'm remembering rightly, one would be Jamaica. But the bottom line is that because people have been convicted of infecting others for whatever crime the legislation prescribes or describes, it means that Belize has something to look forward to. In other words, those people who know law will know that what happens in one Caribbean country, it's the same English law.
Correct.
It is pervasive to us.
Yes.
We will still need the legislation to be enacted to dictate what people will be charged with.
Yes.
But there's something for the people who are looking to create these laws to look at,
Yes.
so that they can actually prescribe something for Belize.
I'm hoping that will be the case, Michelle. Because
Yeah.
I know you're going to start seeing a lot of these cases. This is
I'm
something
hoping,
that's very dear to us. This is people's lives, and you know what's happening? We have a very young population. It's extremely young. We have a young population filled with beautiful young ladies and very handsome young men. And I mean, they as much as we can say that, you know, we want them to wait until they're married, and I'm pushing for that, no problem, you push for that. But in the event it does not happen, they still ought to have their rights protected.
Yes, and once those issues are brought to my attention through the AIDS Commission or CNET, then of course we will look at it, do the necessary research in the legislation, and see how best we could bring these matters to the forefront.
What do
and
they need
to
to
the
do?
court.
Would they,
They would
need
need
to go
to-
to you? Or do they need to go file something? What
Well,
is it?
they could contact me at the Human Rights Commission. The number for the
Where
Human-
is the office, by the way?
The office is in Belmopan,
Belmopan.
in the Help for Progress building, and the number is 605-1188. So you can contact me directly so I could look into the matter, or you could contact the National AIDS Commission or CNET, and those two organizations will then forward whatever concerns to me, and then we go from there.
Michelle, I know that Belmopan, I respect the fact that the office is in Belmopan. I understand that. However, for those who may be outside of Belmopan, Toledo, Corozal, I mean, even Belize City or Benque, is there any accommodation otherwise? Or, I mean, they just need to call that number and possibly, you know.
Yes, because as the attorney for the Human Rights Commission, I am open to traveling
Okay.
to go where the problem is, meet with
Yes.
the people, and do what needs to be done. So while the office is in Belmopan, once I'm being contacted, and if I need to go to Toledo, Corozal, then I'll be there to assist and do what needs to be done.
Now, Michelle, we have a lot of, you have political activists, you have individuals who call themselves human rights defenders, civil activists. There's different activists, social activists, all kinds of names you hear. And they're out there, and for good causes most of the time. I mean, of course, there's some individuals who sometimes I see them, and to me, they just want to be seen, heard, and talked about. So they go to any and every event that they feel, you know, they can try and turn into a controversial issue. I'm not talking about those individuals. I'm talking about genuine activists, individuals who have a genuine cause and are fighting for that cause. And it's looked at as a good cause. It's a cause for the good of their people, their group, you know, society, the country, the region. However, they may be discriminated against, they may be threatened. There was once even talks of possibly, remember there was the detention that was being looked at, you know. What is there that can protect these individuals? I mean, they're all over the place. Not all the time media will be there looking at them. What is there? How can they protect themselves? I mean, again, and I always go to this and use this, you know, you try and get a video, but suppose somebody pull this out of their hand, or suppose even the police wants to pull this out of their hand, or some political fanatic. How can these individuals protect themselves? After all, a lot of times, they're the minority, but they are speaking for the majority, and they're putting themselves out there for all of us. what can be done in that case?
Well, there is the UN Declaration on Protection of Human Rights Defenders. I'm not certain whether or not Belize is a signatory to it, but again, it is a declaration. Therefore, it's not binding. However, countries have been adopting it and use it as a measuring stick to protect human rights defenders. And even though you refer to the different persons as activists and civil society, they're all human rights defenders. And even the teachers union, the person from that organization, anybody who puts themselves out there to protect human on a whole, they are human rights defenders. And so they ought to be protected. There is a declaration, but I'm not certain whether or not Belize has signed on to it, to protect them. But it's for them to come forward and bring their concerns and take the matter to the United Nations. November 2018, Belize will be doing its reporting, its UPR, Universal Periodic Review, whereby they measure to see where the country is as it relates to their keeping up with their obligations under the human rights, United Nations Human Rights Council. So it's for them to come forward and document the violations. And I always say this whenever I do any training, to document. You can't document enough. And when you document what is happening, it gives you something to take forward. When Belize go to the UN Periodic Review 2018, they can go and make a complaint to the organization as well, and have their matter being placed before and ask what is Belize doing to protect its human rights. We hear about violations, and it's not unique to Belize. You have where you have environmental protections, persons, human rights defenders being killed.
Yes.
And so it's for the various organizations to come together and work in order for the necessary protection that they so deserve, because they need the protection.
In 2005, I went to a human rights defenders. It was a conference. I believe it was in Antigua, Guatemala, I believe. And when I was there, the stories, of course, that's when I was a trade union leader, and we were dealing with all the protest actions, and there were, some of us encountered a lot of threats. We were spied upon, different things. I remember tear gas was thrown right in front of me. A former head of police threw tear gas right in front of me. And the things we went through, it was not nice. Our phones, you could hear that our phones were being tapped. They got very reckless. The things, the different photos. I remember everywhere you go, I'd see particular police officers, and I know them taking photos everywhere you're going. It's something that I went through, and the intimidation. If you're not strong, that's why I think a lot of people they hide in their shells, and it's just some of us who are brave enough that will come out. And you see a lot of people now are still coming out, and I'm very proud of them. Now, what I noted when I was at that conference, a lot of the individuals, they had to get police protection, doing their activist work. And there were a lot of countries where it was said that they were killed, just like you rightly mentioned. And even the media, some of the media personnel were killed. Now, I'm not aware we have moved to that point where you have media being killed. We recently had media threatened. Unfortunately, we moved to that very dark place where and a female was threatened, which was very disappointing. I was disappointed in that. But whether it was male or female, that was not good. Now, we've moved to that point. We've crossed that line. We can no longer say, well, the media is safe, because, you say, okay, you won't want to threaten a media. The repercussions, the media house can come out and all of that, but that has been done. That bridge has been crossed. So if they can do it to a media personnel, and I dare say I will like media personnel, about the regular little activists, you know, the one that they'll say, oh, he's a troublemaker. They try to ensure that that person is arrested and charged, criminally charged. You see it left, right, and center, Michelle. They're charged one after the other. You look at all the activists. Each one of them, they're making sure that they put a police record on them just to either humiliate them, keep them in check, intimidate them, and all of those things. What can those individuals do to protect them? I mentioned just now, and I told you, you know, we moved to it, but this is specific right now. Or even you, Norman, and I know that you're in a funny position because really you're still a magistrate. So, but if you can also shed some light on that, I mean, what exactly could be done? Because we speak about democracy. We speak about freedom of democracy, and that ought to be a part of freedom of democracy, being able to protest, being able to speak and have this. I mean, as long as you're not saying things that are untruthful, but these people are being intimidated in this manner that they can be put behind bars. What can be done?
Well, for starters,
you said
document what is being done. As the attorney at the Human Rights Commission, I'm open to meet with any human rights defenders who feel the need to come and bring a matter for us to investigate and see how far we can take it. But it's take a collaborative effort from all the human rights defenders, all those persons, especially those who are being singled out to join forces and lobby for the necessary changes, as if it means going to the United Nations and making shadow reports and get the word out, let them know that in Belize, this is what human rights defenders are facing, because it's not unique to Belize, and that is the thing. It happens throughout the world. Where in Belize, thank God we don't have situations where human rights defenders are being killed, but we don't want to reach that stage, and we don't want to wait until we're at that point. So from now, any violations, you bring it to the forefront, you take the matter to court if needs be, as long as you can marshal the necessary evidence to support it.
There's a group. Yes, go ahead.
If I may add, that collaborative effort has to extend to the whole society, you know, because very often it is some of the activists live amongst the same people who know what they do, spy on them, and go back to the bigger people who are actually instigating these acts against them. So it goes beyond the activists and the close people there. It has to be a united effort by the complete society.
Well said.
Like where I'm pursuing my master's at the University of York, and one program they have there that they do is that they have a session whereby human rights defenders can come. They go there and they do certain courses and so on, but it's kind of like a relaxation time for them, whereby they take them from out of the hot hole, so to speak, and put them there to just relax, unwind. They talk about their experiences, and when you listen to some of the stories that they go through in their various countries, in order to just protect the human rights of people. Yes. So that is one program that they have that is ongoing, and it's something that I would encourage any human rights defenders in Belize to take advantage of that, whereby they can go tell their story, and sometimes it might even mean getting financing or funding for their particular organization.
There's also a group called Frontline Defenders. I believe they do offer some level of funding, and then they do bring the stories to like Frontline Defenders.
If I may just add this little part here, my opinion is that the protection of human rights must not be for one group. It has to be for all those whose rights are being breached.
Yes.
And I think we've noticed it in the society that sometimes there's such great effort to protect one set of human rights, and then the others are just like left in the dark.
Yes.
No effort at all. So I think it has, and that frustrates people, because if I know that one group is getting all the support and I am not getting any support.
Well, Norman, there's a particular group, and I know that a lot of the religious activists out there may be saying, okay, as it regards the key thing you mentioned about the LGBT, they'll be saying the LGBT is an extreme minority and they're getting all the support and all the, and all the spotlight and all that, and then they're disrupting the traditional way of the family life. But that's another
However, I would like to say
topic.
though, while a minority, they are very vigilant when it comes to protecting their
Extremely,
rights.
and that's
And
what
I think we all need to take a note from them, because when it comes to advocacy, they know how to ensure that they are bringing their matters to the forefront.
and that's what the church activists needs to understand, because I look at it and I that's what I was looking at. They said baby when no cry no get milk. they want cry. We have to go to our second ad break, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with attorney and poet Norman Rodriguez. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after these messages.
It's the second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball and Sashing Ceremony, held under the distinguished patronage of Governor General Sir Colville and his wife, Lady Norma Young. Come witness the sashing of the delegates for Queen of the Bay 2017 and meet your favorite queens of yesteryear. Get your tickets at Bel Caribe Communications and Chef Carlos Restaurant, formerly Craven's Restaurant, at Mile 1 on the Philip Goldson Highway in Belize City.
Come enjoy food, drinks, music, elegance, glamour, and patriotism. The second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball, Saturday, August 26th, with red carpet starting at 7 p.m. at the Best Western Biltmore Plaza in Belize City. Contribution $100. See you at the second annual Queen of the Bay State Ball and Sashing Ceremony.
Stronger, faster, comfortable, affordable, and powered by the trusted Cummins ISF 2.8-liter turbo diesel engine. We changed the way the game is played. The new Photon tunneling truck and View CS2 van. Available at Universal Hardware. Photon, the game changer is here.
Smart's broadband unlimited internet is available in all 6 districts. Sign up. Enjoy the fastest, most reliable broadband internet for your home or office. Now offering 1 megabyte for only $55.
Buying or selling land can be a daunting experience. Don't leave things to chance. When buying or selling land in Belize, seek the professional real estate services of Moya Shepherd and Company Limited. Benefit from our extensive local and international network to find your dream home or to move your property from selling to sold. Our land consultancy services also include appraisals, conveyances, registrations, surveys, transfers, title searches, and the preparation of all other legal documentation and land transaction processes. We are located at 5 miles Philip Goldson Highway. Give us a call at 223-4465 or visit us at www.realestatebz.com.
Good night and welcome back. We have been having a very lively discussion, and we said, you know what, we're gonna have to have you both back again, because we're gonna have to have a part 2, because there's certain areas that I wanted to discuss about. You know, violence against women, of course, is definitely an area that I know that we need to discuss. The fact also that, you know, you have the young ladies, you know, they may be having different children, or just ladies in general, but they may want a tie-off, for example. In Belize, we call it a tie-off, and something should be there to help to protect them. If in fact, men after 4 or 5 children, they really can't afford it, and what is there, nobody's helping them, but sometimes things happen and they have to struggle along. So there's many different areas that we will have to discuss about. So Michelle, I will ensure that you're called back. But Norman, you're a poet. So even when Norman, and I will say that Michelle, I fond memories, Michelle, because again, Michelle was my first administrative assistant that I had hired, and excellent person. And then Marcia was there before you went there, so Marcia, I guess you were there, and you were a very nice person. So I want to also say, Norman, from the time you were admin assistant at the Belize City Council, you were still writing poems. You were already writing poems, Norman. Norman, you were a poet then. So, and now I see, and this isn't the first book that you have penned. You understand? I remember you had one, you look like a shepherd, Norman. You had like a gray, yes, you look like a shepherd. This was Norman's book. And so now, Norman, I see this. Tell us a bit about this, because you're not just an attorney, you know, and a magistrate, you're also a poet.
I have over 1,000 poems written since I think I started in 1991.
Wow.
I started with love poems. I used to write to this girl I had in Orange Walk.
Whoa! Okay.
And up to now, I have over 1,000 poems. And if you look at the quality of this book, it is my best yet. I got it printed in the US, and
very nice.
I got some assistance.
It's glossy, Norman. It's a glossy.
Quality.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's glossy
Quality.
cover.
Yeah, I put a lot into this because I was advised that your presentation, the way you present it, what you have on your cover, makes a big difference. And this book has, I think it's 110 poems, somewhere
Yes.
thereabout.
Is there any one of these poems that is most dear to you? I know a poet will always say, well, it's too difficult, but I see some very good ones. Gone Too Soon, I mean, about your father. I know I've seen you posting pictures of your dad, and I understand that one all too well. My father, February 5th, 2018, next year, February 5th, coming up will be 20 years since my father passed. He died February 5th, 1998.
Yeah.
So I know how it is. So as a young girl, I lost my father, and I know how difficult, and you as a young man, you need your father as well. And
Definitely.
I know this, I saw you posting picture, and one of the poems is regarding that, Gone Too Soon.
Normally, poems related to my father and my dear, beautiful little girl,
Yes.
Amy. She's everything for me. I just want the world to know that.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
But there's another poem that I wrote, and I think when you ask me which one is dear to me, because
Yes.
I will read this one,
Yes.
because the day I wrote it, I was pretty upset with the way people behave in the neighborhood where you grow up. And it causes you sometimes to just hate your own neighborhood. And then you would go back to a state where you say, you know what, these are my people, I live amongst them. So this poem on page 119
So
is
don't
called
trust.
Adapting to Informal Means.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
They want me to tell lies like they do, to conform to the informal methods, to hang with the after hours groups, to get high so they can hang me out to dry. They want me to leave my brothers and sisters, to join the elitist groups, to forget the roots whence I came, to become like them, vultures. They want me to sit in the ghetto, to do their white-collar evils, to be controlled like a puppet on a string, and become just like them, devils. They want me to become weak, to be like them, cowards, who steal from the fatherless and poor, and trample the meek. They want me to lose my eternity, to pretend that I am not a sinner, and act as if I have no conscience, and engage in their lust and idolatry. They want me to become just like them, pretty on the outside, but empty in the inside, shouting to the world that they are happy, but swallowed up by their corrupted system. They want me to be silent, even though the anger burns deep within. And whenever I speak out against them, they say that I am insolent. They want me to fail, to become a thief, a murderer, or a crackhead, to be a nobody in the streets, going about like a lost ship without a sail. They want me to remain ignorant, like the spoiled children who pray, or the children of other people's children. To get me there, they say that I am rebellious and defiant. They want me to never leave the slums and travel to those big cities, to remove myself from the places where they can look at me and my brothers and call us bums. They want to keep me mentally imprisoned, so they make their own oppressive laws and put chains on my 2 hands and feet and keep my mind and soul poisoned. They want to keep me powerless, so they give me no opportunity to get into their book learning. It is they who make me fatherless. They want to make us all killers, so they put guns in our hands and drag us into prison and addiction, then tell the world that we are murderers. They try to bring tears from my eyes, but only blood and sweat flow, because before I cry, I'd rather die. Me and my brothers out in the streets, fighting the good fight each day at the school of hard knocks, toiling to bring things our way and to ensure they don't succeed. To make sure I realize my dreams, I become a wolf just like them, adapting to informal means.
Okay, Norman, this book is one that definitely people need to get their hands on. How can they get their hand on this?
It's at CY on East Collect Canal. Well, I went away just after I published, so I'm still going to try and get it into a couple other places.
Yes.
And there's this handicraft center at the Memorial Park.
Yes.
They're also there for sale.
Okay. So CY is for Colville Young Jr. That's his
Definitely.
place. And you can go right there and make sure you get it.
Get your copy.
Get your copy. All right?
The book has 110 poems. It sells for $35. It's quality material.
Extreme quality. This is a good thing, man. This is a good thing. It's not only the context that is very good and inspirational, Norman, and extremely well written. Well, you're a gifted, very intelligent person, and what you write definitely will be meaningful to those who read it. So I would strongly suggest that you ensure that you pick up your copy, and you ensure that you also can get a look as to what good poetry is all about. But not only good poetry, it's like what you call it, good commentary. All right?
I like what Michelle said, if you
Yes.
allow just to say a word
Sure.
or two.
Yes.
In relation to the variety and so on in
Yes,
the book.
Mish. Mhm.
Okay, I presented at his book launching, so I
Yes.
read one of the poems. But what I find with his book is that his poetry is that there's always that one that jumps out at you, that is just, that it speaks to you in terms of your experience in it, or you have experienced it and so on. So he has been able to capture different styles and different moods that you may be in. So there is always that one poem in any of his book that jumps out at me. He's a good writer.
Yes. Well, Norman, I want to thank you. And Michelle, I want to thank you for being a part of tonight's show. You've been incredible. And I really appreciate having you here. We'll have to be another part two. We'll have to have a part two. I want to thank our sponsors, Universal Hardware, Smart Belize, Belize Electricity Limited, Moya Shepherd and Company Limited, Queen of the Bay Pageant, and Queen of the Bay State Ball for supporting this very important and educational initiative. I want to say for anyone who want to advertise on the Sinaida Moya Show, to either inbox the Sinaida Moya Show Facebook page, or you can contact Ms. Vanessa Lemott at 615-4467. And you can also contact myself if you want. Thank you to our viewers. I know we have some faithful viewers always watching. Thank you to all of you, and I see some of you commenting. Thank you to the production team, Abdul Asif and Cliff. Thank you to the Facebook editor, Miss Dejanira Thompson. I always say thank you to my little daughter, Natalia, and my son, Kelvin, for inspiring me to do this show. Please note that a repeat of this show, as is usual, is aired on Creme Television on Sunday, August 13th. So we'll be having it starting from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And of course, you can go live on the Facebook page and you get to see the live stream version. It will still be on the page, so you can always look at it there. And so it has been spectacular. Oh, I also want to say, please ensure that you support our Queen of the Bay district pageants currently going on. We have this week, last Saturday gone, we had Queen of the Bay Toledo, and Kuwaita Arzu won. Very lovely young lady, she won, and so she'll be representing. And then we also have this week, so she'll be joining the other three delegates. And then we will be having this Saturday, August 12th, in San Ignacio. They'll be having Queen of the West pageant, so Santa Elena and San Ignacio. And I believe there's also delegates from Benke as well, so they'll be having their pageant this Saturday, August 12th. So make sure you support. If you're in the area, you go there, make it a trip. Also, the Belmopan pageant, it was scheduled for this Saturday. It's been postponed until next week, Thursday, August 17th. Again, the big pageant will be Saturday, September the 2nd at the Big Bird's Isle at 7 p.m. And of course, the second annual Queen of the Bay State pageant will be this Saturday before that, which is Saturday, August 26th. We do have tickets at Bel Caribe and at Chef Carlos, formerly Craven's Restaurant, at Mile 1 on the Philip Wilson Highway. So until then, make sure you get your tickets early. Until then, have a safe and blessed week. May God bless you all.